Apocalypse, the three vaginas of the apocalypse. We've worked hard on our costumes, and I have a feeling we're going to need to wear them a lot. So, I was born in 1949 when women didn't have any rights. Until I got married in 1970. And when I married, I lost a lot of freedoms. I lost them just by acquiring Mrs. Title. First and foremost, all my bodily decisions, my reproductive decisions, had to be agreed upon by my husband. And I couldn't have a credit card without my husband's signature and approval, or a bank account. Should we wish to rent or buy a home, my salary wouldn't count, because I was a married woman and I could get pregnant, so we couldn't depend on my funds. And there were a lot of jobs, if I had gotten pregnant, that I would have lost. And just being a woman could get pregnant, limited my working opportunities. Even the decision to have sex was a husband's right to demand, or to take it if he wanted to. There was no such thing as spousal rape. That's a protection that wouldn't come until 1993. Fortunately, my husband was a good guy, and I never had to worry about him demanding or harming me. Other women were not so lucky. Bottom line, I wanted my name and my autonomy back. But divorce was not an easy thing to get. To divorce, you have to burn in the forest just to justify being granted. A no-fault divorce wouldn't come until 1971. My husband and I had a lot of love, but forgot to talk about having children. And for many reasons, I never planned to have any. And my male-permitted birth control pills were making me very ill, so I had to find another option. We separated as friends in 1971, my husband not ready to grant me a divorce. And even a no-fault, an easy no-fault divorce, he wasn't ready for. I would have to wait. Fast forward to 1973, when women, through Roe versus Wade, were given the right to choose what was good for their bodies. Yes. I wanted a permanent, guaranteed birth control that wouldn't make me ill. After jumping through many hoops, I was granted permission to have a tubal ligation. But first, I had to finalize my divorce. But even though I was separated, I was still a married woman, and I would need my husband's signature. So I waited to finalize the no-fault divorce and was free to choose the procedure. But there was one more condition. I was told by my doctors, by the hospital, that I had to sign a notarized statement that no future boyfriend, no future husband, or priest could sue the hospital for taking away my ability to have a child. I don't know if this sounds familiar, but 2 weeks ago, on January 3rd, Andy Biggs, a Republican senator from Arizona, and I think Clay Higgins, another Louisiana senator, introduced House Resolution number 7 that would require women to get permission from their husband or their father or their priest to obtain birth control, to have their tubes tied, to access IVF, to get treatment for a miscarriage, or end a pregnancy for any reason. The bill focuses on church-based medical practices and puts women's needs, wants, and life at the bottom of any consideration. Once again, all our reproductive rights they want to relegate to a man's decision. And I might also note that for the past year, our future Vice President, J.D. Vance, has been moaning and groaning because women can get a no-fault divorce, and it's just too easy. So they're going to work to also eradicate no-fault divorce. So welcome to Project 2025. Sadly, the Democratic Party, as a corporate whole, has never seriously tried to codify Roe versus Wade. And in June 2022, we lost the right again for a woman to choose, unless they lived in a state like New Mexico that allowed reproductive rights. Otherwise, if you're in the wrong state, the life of the unborn takes precedence over the woman's life. And the Christian nationalists and the Republican Party are determined to have a national ban on abortion and birth control and anything related to women's reproductive health. We can't sit quietly. Many of us here have already lived the restrictions that they want to impose on women's rights and want to impose on us again. In 2020, the Equal Rights Amendment was passed and ratified and was ready to be published and become the 28th Amendment of the Constitution. And Donald Trump, as president, ordered the archivists to shelve it. Joe Biden has had 4 years to tell the archivists to take it off the shelf. And yesterday, on his last day in office, Biden declared that in his opinion, the Equal Rights Amendment has been ratified and is the law of the land. But he didn't insist on the publication because the archivist refuses. So next week, though, we have Donald Trump.
Some gay, too.
Yes, and next week we have Donald Trump, and he will do the same. But he'll declare that it's not the law of the land. So let the battle begin, because this is needed to be in the courts for a long time. And I ask, why didn't Biden declare it the law of the land when he began office? Why does he wait to the last day? Or why didn't the Democratic Party codify Roe versus Wade during the 50 years that they had that opportunity? We need a party, we need people in office who will fight for a woman's right to choose and not use women's rights as campaign fodder and simple promises. Project 2025 and Christian nationalists must not succeed. Resolution 7 must die in the House, and we must take our defiance, our resistance, and our resilience to the courts and to the streets, while seeking and electing those individuals who are serious about the equal rights for everyone, with no exceptions.
This challenging moment in our history, let us remind ourselves that we are hundreds of thousands and millions of women, trans people, men, youth, who were here at the Women's March. We represent the powerful forces of change that are determined to prevent the dying cultures of racism, heteropatriarchy from rising again. We recognize that we are collective agents of history and that history cannot be deleted like web pages. We know that we gather this afternoon on Indigenous land, and we follow the lead of the first people, who despite massive genocide violence have never relinquished their struggle for land, water, culture, their people. We especially salute today all 600 tribes throughout America. Woohoo! The freedom struggles of people that have shaped the very nature of this country's history cannot be deleted with a sweep of a hand. We cannot be made to forget that Black Lives Matter, that it is a country anchored in slavery, colonialism, which means, for better or for worse, the very history of the United States is a history of immigration, enslavement, spreading xenophobia, hurling accusations of murder, rape, and building walls, and not This will not erase history. No human being is illegal. The struggle to save the planet, to stop climate change, to guarantee the accessibility of water from the lands of the Tiwa Pueblo to Flint, Michigan, to the West Bank and Gaza. The struggle to save our flora and fauna, to save the air. This is ground zero of the struggle for social justice. This is a woman's march, and this woman's march represents the promise of feminism against the pernicious powers of the state violence, and inclusive and intersectional feminism that calls upon us all to join the resistance to racism, to Islamophobia, to anti-Semitism, to misogyny, to capitalist exploitation. We decided we dedicate ourselves to collective resistance, resistance to billionaire mortgage profiteers and gentrifiers, resistance to healthcare privateers, resistance to attacks on Muslims and immigrants, resistance on attacks to disabled people, resistance to state violence perpetuated through the prison industrial complex, resistance to institutional and intimate gender violence, especially all women of any nationality. Women's rights are human rights all over the planet. Oh, thank you. Women's rights are all over the planet. Over the next months and years, we will be called upon to intensify our demands for social justice, to become more militant in our defense of vulnerable populations. Those who still defend the supremacy of white male heteropatriarchy and oligarchy had better watch out. The next 1,459 days of the Trump administration will be 1,459 days of resistance. Resistance on the ground, resistance in the classroom, resistance on the job, resistance in our art, in our music. This is just the beginning. In the words of Ella Baker, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
That's right! Yeah!
Words from President Biden's speech to the country. I now pass the responsibility to all of you to safeguard our democracy.
Yay!
In the words of John Lennon, I may be a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. In the words of John F. Kennedy, I ask you not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. In the words of Martin Luther King, I have a dream. March on, my fellow Americans. Thank you. Speaker. Sorry, it was better.
I'm in the floors. Diane, could you come and address us, please?
Hey, I'm Diana Davies, and I'm a Unitarian minister, and I don't have any prepared notes, but I just want to say I'm here today representing Taos Immigrant Allies. And in a minute, I'm going to tell you something about that. Before that, I just want to mention, you might have noticed I'm wearing my clergy stole and my collar today, and I don't ever wear that garb except for when I'm out doing social justice work. But I want to tell you today, I am angry. I am so angry. I am angry that Christian nationalists and the religious right have taken the word religion and faith and justice for themselves, and that is just not right. There are still a lot of people of faith out here who still believe, I still believe, that trans people are beautiful and divine and their lives matter. I still believe that queer people are beautiful and divine and their lives matter. I believe that women and other people who can get pregnant are beautiful and divine, and they can make their own damn choices, and their lives matter. I believe that immigrants, regardless of their status, are beautiful and divine, and their lives certainly do matter. People with disabilities are beautiful, divine, their lives matter. Black people, brown people, indigenous people, every person is beautiful and divine in our lives. All of us, we matter. No matter what they tell you, no matter what they say, hold it in your hearts. Your message is beautiful. Your life is divine. What you have to say matters so much.